It was a location befitting the honoree. Elegant, but not overly ostentatious. Classy and full of style. A perfect match.
Welcome to the Boathouse.
The Lake Room at the Boathouse in Central Park, one of New York's best-kept secrets, hiding in plain sight in the middle of Manhattan, all decked out to honor a giant in medicine. Dr. Michael P. Osborne has been saving lives on 2 continents for more than 4 decades, and tonight his family and friends came to congratulate, while many of his patients came to say thank you. The reception was hosted by Sam Gershowitz and his wife Marlena, Sam himself a patient of Dr. Osborne. And it was with ease and pride that he spoke of this world-renowned icon.
I've been healthy most of all my life, thank God. And when I came down with breast cancer, I was devastated. And I was afraid to see a doctor. And finally, enough people recommended Dr. Osborne. When I went to see him, and I walked into his office, and he walked in, I felt so comfortable. Like the whole world, I'm starting to tear now, the whole world was brighter. That I felt secure, that he was going to help me. And he did. And I felt, he was so nice and so kind, the way he treats his patients, the way he treated me, that I felt, what can I do for you? So I figured, let me make him a party so people could honor him and let him know what he's done for people.
He made me feel kind of safe, and that he had a personal interest in my husband as a human being. Not just that, okay, you're a number, I get so many cases, because it is also a business, if you want to say.
Let me say something else.
And so he made us feel very safe and secure, and I thought he was fantastic, and he scheduled the surgery, and everything went smoothly.
A lot of people recommended him, and then there's this Chabad, this Jewish organization, that they have doctors up in Muncie, New York, and they recommend doctors. Dr. Osborne came up number 1.
In a room where the lighting was more suited for radio than for TV, guests were treated to a first-class selection of sumptuous food and drink, then settled down to honor a man who has dedicated his life to breast cancer surgery and seemingly never-ending research.
My name is Sam Gershowitz, and I'm a breast cancer survivor. My doctor is Dr. Michael Osborne. Throughout most of my life, I've had the good fortune of good health. When I learned that I had cancer, and as a male, breast cancer, well, time stood still. It was recommended by a lot of people that I go and see Dr. Osborne. Life can be looked at with a glass half full or half empty. With Dr. Osborne, the glass is always full. Michael injects his patients with a strong positive outlook. From the first moment I met Dr. Osborne, I felt positive and comfortable about how my cancer was to be treated. Dr. Osborne is a people's person. He's a regular guy who you can reach out to. His compassion for his patients and cares about you as an individual. He always makes time to see his patients, talk to his patients and console them. His bedside manner is positively incredible. To be truly great at your profession or business or job, you need to have personal skills that complement your professional skills. Dr. Osborne is gifted with both. I have also had the pleasure to get to know Michael on a personal level. He is a true humanitarian and a generous individual. Without further ado, please welcome my doctor and our guest of honor, Dr. Michael Osborne. I would also like to invite Dr. Lou Harrison to speak about Michael's career. And thank you. I know the way you took care of me, you took care of many patients, and you made their lives much easier. Thank you.
I was taught when I was a child by my grandmother the expression that everybody brings joy to a room. Some by walking in, and others by walking out. Well, Michael is one of those guys that brings joy to a room when he walks in. When Michael Osborne enters a room, I can tell you the average intellect of that room goes up, the average quotient of human compassion goes up, the average element of niceness goes up, and depending upon which side of the pond you live in, the quality of English diction either goes up or down. Michael has had a distinguished career. I was reminded that the first 10 years were in the UK and the last 30 here in the United States, so we can adopt him as an American medical icon. The incredible thing about Michael's career, and one of the things that I think makes him so worthy of an evening like this, is the fact that Michael is not just a surgeon. Michael is a thinker, and he has spent all of his career thinking far more broadly about breast cancer than just the operations that he so skillfully does. And some of the operations that are done are operations that he's helped design. For example, early on, recognizing that breast cancer, even if it's small, is not just a localized disease, but a disease that can spread to other parts of the body, he, early in his career, decades ago, began to study the bone marrow of breast cancer patients and has demonstrated the important prognostic significance of finding micrometastases in the bone marrow at a time when he was one of the first with this original idea. And although the 10-year data is soon to come out, this has been one of his major contributions in understanding breast cancer as a global disease.
This is such a pleasure for me because in life I find so many people come into your world and change it. And that's how I feel about this Dr. Michael Osborne. He has great compassion and dedication, completely, especially for the young people that I've come to know him about. And I want to thank Michael for sticking with the whole concept that he understands that the kids to grow up strong and healthy, they have to have a basic good beginning. So I thank you, Michael, for really being very dedicated to this whole effort for children.
On this special evening, I would like to present Dr. Osborne with a Steuben sculpture entitled Beacon of Light. For the past 40 years, Dr. Osborne has dedicated himself to saving lives. His brilliance and accomplishments have been widely recognized. However, to this day, he remains a most humble man. This sculpture will forever symbolize the hope that he has inspired in all his patients. I present Beacon of Light. Anyone who wants to see it, it's on display. Darling? Thank you.
I was to be the last speaker, but a couple of very dear friends feel compelled to say a few words. I'm going to say my words first, and then I'll leave it up to anyone who wants to say anything. So I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight, and I would particularly like to thank Sam and Marlena Gershowitz for so generously hosting this reception. This means a great deal to me personally, and I'm very appreciative of Sam's kind words, and I was privileged to have been there for him during that very difficult time. I've got to know him personally as well. He's a great fisherman. He's somebody to know if you want to go fishing and catch the really big ones off the canyons from Montauk. Lou, where is Lou? Lou, thank you for your very kind comments on my career over the past 30 years in the United States. As you said, you and I go back at least 25 years to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and I now have the pleasure of working with him. It seems only a very short time ago, July the 1st, 1980, that I walked through the doors of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and I'm very pleased that some of my colleagues, my very talented colleagues from there, are able to be here tonight. I also very much enjoyed my time at the New York Hospital Cornell Medical Center, as we called it then. Now it's called New York Presbyterian Hospital. God help you if you want to go to New York Presbyterian Hospital. They will have no clue where to take you. It could be uptown or downtown. At that time, I was also president of an affiliated institute, Strang Cancer Prevention Center. Its claim to fame was the discovery of the Pap test, which, being a humble surgeon, I know that's an oxymoron, we claimed that we saved more lives from cancer than any other institute in history. And again, many of my wonderful colleagues from New York Hospital, Cornell, and Strang are here tonight. Now I'm at Continuum Cancer Centers of New York, which includes Beth Israel Medical Center, Roosevelt Hospital, and St. Luke's Hospital. And I'm actually practicing in the Apple Vanette Comprehensive Breast Center at Beth Israel Medical Center in Union Square. I can't help but mention it is October, and we've all got pink ribbons, or at least some of us have. I just want to comment on the fact that the name Vanette, Lou Vanette, is named, the breast center is named for this surgeon who was the first to do the real scientific studies of screening mammography and show that it would reduce the death rate by about 25%. Bearing in mind these were the 1960s that the study was done. Bearing in mind the mammography was appallingly bad, you could barely see a thing, and bearing in mind that a third of the people who were asked to come for screening but are included in the analysis, typical New Yorkers, never showed up. Well, as you read the Times this week, the argument is over, according to the New York Times and according to experts from Harvard, and we know they're always right, that screening for women aged 40 to 50, as shown in a huge study in Sweden, millions of women, has reduced the death rate by 30%. We already knew this was true for women over 50. But I want to get back to the fact this is not about breast cancer so much, it's about me. I'm just trying to be funny there. My British humor comes out. I'm actually very humbled by the fact that many of the doctors and researchers here this evening are nationally and internationally renowned, and I count myself extremely fortunate to have had the opportunity to work with them. For 40 years, I've been able to go to work and do what I enjoy the most, which is taking care of patients and conducting research to find better ways to improve their care. Now, not much mention has been made of the decade I practiced in England, and maybe that's just as well. I have so many dear friends there, some of whom have made significant advances in medicine. And next weekend, I will be there to celebrate my 40th reunion since graduation. In talking to somebody tonight, I just dawned on me the horror and shock that 45 years ago this week, I actually started in the Charing Cross Hospital Medical School in London. So now many of you, I can see there, are trying to do the math. Now remember, in the UK, we graduate in our early 20s. So I'd appreciate if you did not add the 40 years to the since 30 years, which would make me approximately 95 years old. Now there are two important parts of a career as a surgeon, and the two important parts are those who trained you and those in whose training you participated. I have calculated, and it seems hard to believe, but the way we did it in England was very different to America. I was trained in some way or another by over 30 different surgeons in about 15 different specialties. So I think I ended up knowing an awful lot about very little. Or I should put it the other way around. I knew very little about an awful lot, but when I came to New York, I got to know more and more about less and less, which is breast cancer. And I think for many of us, it's a shock to realize that the more and more we learn about breast cancer, how we realize how little we know about the disease and how far there is to go. Although we've seen many improvements, and we've seen a decline in the death rate of breast cancer for the last number of years, consistently the disease is now being gotten on top of and being beaten. My key inspiration during my years of training, I just do feel obligated to mention, and I know none of you will know them except those who are extremely senior, but Norman Tanner, who was senior surgeon at Charing Cross, was at that time the world's foremost gastric surgeon, put out of business by Zantac. But he was an outstanding surgeon of the era and very much influenced me. John Griffith, senior surgeon and colorectal surgeon at the Royal Marsden Hospital, very much encouraged me to come to New York, to Memorial Sloan Kettering, and strongly advised me not to come back to England. I'd hasten to say he did that out of interest in my career, no personal opinion on my ability to practice. I was interviewed in a pub in London by a friend of John Griffith's, Jerome de Cosse, who was chairman of surgery at Memorial Sloan Kettering, who recruited me to the United States. I came for a year and I'm still here. Some think I just lost my passport. I was also trained by Jerome Urban at Sloan Kettering, the leading breast cancer surgeon of the era, admittedly a very radical surgeon, and indeed I got into a great deal of trouble, although remained a dear friend of his for the rest of his life, in introducing lumpectomy and radiation into Memorial. Very important to me also is my involvement in training residents and fellows. Many of them are here this evening, and I can speak with certainty that I've had some degree of success in that they all know more than me. And that is the goal of any teacher, is their student, their resident, their fellow should know more than you at the end of the day. I particularly like to mention a few individuals who I am very proud and privileged to have been involved with in their careers. Dr. Alexander Swistel, who is the director of the breast surgery at New York Presbyterian Cornell. Monica Morrow, who is chief of the breast service at Memorial Sloan Kettering. Pat Borgen, who was formerly chief of the breast service at Sloan Kettering and now chairman of surgery at Maimonides. Rasha Simmons, breast surgeon at New York Presbyterian Hospital in Cornell and former president of the American Society of Breast Surgeons. Susan Bubel, our wonderful chief of breast surgery at Beth Israel. Sharon Rosenbaum-Smith, breast surgeon at Roosevelt Hospital. Alyssa Gallego, breast surgeon at St. Luke's Hospital. Two who could not be here is my very dear friend and wonderful fellow Joseph Crow, who is chief of breast surgery at the Cleveland Clinic, and Deborah Axelrod, who was former chief at Beth Israel, subsequently St. Vincent, and now at NYU. Some have said I should stop training people now because I really have batted about as maximum average I could do with such a wonderful group of people to have been involved with in their training, albeit sometimes in a small way. And I am so proud of those people I've mentioned and the many more that are too numerous to mention. Lastly, I want to particularly acknowledge my family. My children, James, Andrew, and Emma, are here. Where's James? Stand up, James. Andrew's there. And Emma. Simon could not be here tonight because he's in Scotland, and I seriously suspect he's enjoying a malt whisky at some tavern in Edinburgh. I'm very proud of my children and their accomplishments in their different ways, and I know they would be so mad with me if I discussed what they've accomplished. So I'll leave it at that I'm so proud they've come here and they're here with me tonight. I've been blessed with very good friends from all walks of life. Many of you are here tonight and you know who you are. And I very much appreciate your coming, and for those who couldn't make it, I appreciate your calling me and letting me know your other commitments. There is an award. There's nothing tangible. It's just my gratitude for the two who traveled the furthest to be here tonight. Charles Potter, stand up, please. Charles Potter was Chief of Informatics at Strang, worked with me at Sloan Kettering for many years, won the Windows World Open competition, got a Smithsonian Bronze Medal for Strang for his work at winning the Windows World Open. I have 2 letters from Bill Gates to prove it. He came all the way from San Diego in California. Thank you, Charles. And back to Andrew, my son, who came all the way from Palm Beach, Florida. I wish I was there now. Thank you. I would like to especially thank Mel Barish, whose inspiration has helped make this evening possible, and thank you very much for your thoughtful award. Once again, thank you, Sam and Marlena, for making this evening possible. You're the most gracious hosts. The food is wonderful. The company is wonderful. It has just been the most beautiful location. Who could have brought a better place to have an event with on the water here in Central Park in New York City? Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you very much. My dear friend Rodney Davis, where are you, Rodney? Have you had second thoughts?
Rodney Davis. Rodney.
Well, as Rodney comes up, where is he?
There he is.
Rodney has the distinction of being the youngest black FBI officer in the history of the FBI. He was the senior agent at Kennedy Airport at the Pan Am crash. I know he's going to be mad with me. Worked with Field Director Cal Strong, with those people in a very compassionate way. And he has been a very dear friend. I will tell you the thing that most impressed me about Rodney. This is a funny little story. I don't remember if it was James or Andrew who were at a junior league or minor league baseball game in Pelham Manor where we both lived. And do you remember those days when the parents were so obnoxious and they were screaming and swearing at the referees? You remember those days, everybody? It was a big deal, and it was very obnoxious. And during the course of one of these games, one of the parents from the opposing team was totally out of control. Rodney Davis, FBI agent, approached this gentleman and said, "Excuse me, you are being extremely inappropriate. This is not the way to conduct yourself in front of the parents." Whereupon that parent threatened him with violence. Whereupon Rodney Davis opened his jacket, showed him his gun and his FBI, and the last time he was seen was departing at very high speed out of the parking lot. Rodney, it's a pleasure to have you here.
I've known Dr. Osborne for almost 25 years. I grew up in Pelham Manor, and I worked with one of the best criminal organizations in the world, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, started in 1967. And ended my career in 2001. And after I left and started my own business right here in the city, I maintained my friendship with Dr. Osborne. One of the things I could say about Dr. Osborne was the FBI's contact for any kind of problems when it came to any kind of cancer problems. I would call Dr. Osborne no matter what time of the night, for a special agent, for a supervisory special agent, for an ASAC, for a special agent in charge, or even for assistant director, and I would tell them somebody had a problem. Would you mind just speaking to them? Dr. Osborne would drop everything and make that phone call. So God bless Dr. Osborne and all what he's done for the FBI, and all the FBI agents appreciate that. And when I've left the Bureau, I've still contacted Dr. Osborne, and he's contacted the FBI to assist him. So without any further ado, because this is about Dr. Osborne, in behalf of the FBI, former Special Agent, Supervisor Special Agent Rodney Davis, and the Friends of the FBI, I'd like to present this plaque to him. Truly a great American, and from across the pond.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you. That is beautiful. I think that's better than my certificate as a Fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of England. That is beautiful. I'll treasure that. By the way, I did want to mention I really only invited Rodney, and I have 3 law enforcement individuals here, which I brought really for my own protection and safety in case this didn't go well with my colleagues. Rodney is one of them. The other is Commissioner Rafael Pinheiro, the Deputy First Commissioner of the New York City Police Department. Would you just stand up and... And my long-term friend, the most well-known police officer in the New York Police Department, the undercover narcotics detective who uncovered the French Connection, Sonny Grosso. Okay, that's the law enforcement section. I hope I didn't miss anybody out. Donald. Donald, did you say you wanted to say something? Yes. Coming up. While he's walking up, let me introduce you to Donald Beldock, former chairman of the board of Strang Cancer Prevention Center, one of the most outstanding supporters of our institution and one of the most remarkable individuals I've met in my career of so many talents.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everything you've done for this community, Michael. I promise to be very brief, but I have had the opportunity to observe in Michael, in addition to his spectacular professional accomplishments and his great humanitarian contributions and his very considerable managerial skills, both in medicine and in research, something that is not quite so obvious as those well-established characteristics. Really 2 things. One is an extraordinary courage on the level of the truly heroic. And I will get to an incident which displays that. And the other, which I will deal with first, is a readiness to make sacrifices of his personal interests, particularly financial sacrifices, in order to make even greater contributions to the common good, the health of the community, the health of the world. That's really rare. This still very young man, still at the apex of his career, was in his late 30s among the true luminaries of the oncological surgical world, one of the handful of most sought after and highly compensated breast surgeons in the world. And he chose, at the peak of that career, to turn down the enormous psychic as well as financial rewards that came from that prestigious inclusion with the great stars of medicine, to pursue another love and another means of giving his talents to the world. and that was to take over the leadership of a small cancer research facility with a very limited budget, dealing on the frontier and often experiencing great frustrations in so doing. Not only in cancer detection, early detection and cure, but in preventive medicine at large. That humanitarian gesture, that readiness to sacrifice his own personal interests for the greater good, is the kind of thing we hope to see in this world, but too rarely do. And Michael exquisitely represents it. The other characteristic that I cited was the courage that Michael, virtually uniquely in his day, exhibited. Preventative medicine is very fashionable today, principally because Michael and a handful of others demonstrated its extraordinary efficiency. But at the time that Michael came to head the institution, which spearheaded its accomplishments and its recognition, it was anathema to much of the profession. The great physicians did not consider it worthy of serious attention. Michael, a most promising and already emerging as a leading member of that establishment, had the courage to have his voice heard and his arguments irresistibly demonstrated that preventive medicine was the wave of the future. That combination of being prepared to give up what most people in this society seek with a fervent passion, at least for a few years, and the readiness to stand against the accepted traditional beliefs, make for an unique man in his time. Michael, you, as I said before, exquisitely represent both of those marvelous human characteristics. I admire you for them. I love you for them. Thank you, Michael. Thank you all.
I'm not sure I can handle any more. So my recommendation at this point is that we continue. You going to say something else? No.
Just to knock you down.
You scared me then. Alan is one of my dear friends, but he's prone to one more. My son. Wow, this is something. My son is going to say something. Keep it short.
I will keep it short. During the first time that I've ever realized that my father, what he did, I was 14 years old. We were taking a trip to the Bahamas, and we were coming back on the plane, which Kevin Bacon and Kieran Sedgwick had been on. I had this conversation with Kieran Sedgwick should have been the main thing in my basic memory of this trip, but it wasn't. What it was my father standing there, and a random woman, comes up to him, crying and hugging him and saying how he saved her life. And that, I was about 14 years old, and that's when I realized how, what my father has done and how great of a man he is to, completely, cure cancer, or not cure cancer, make everything.
Stay positive.
I am, and it was a very exhilarating experience. I met two superstars that day, but what I remember from that day is this woman congratulating my father and crying that he'd saved his life. for her life, and that's great.
Thank you.
I love it.
Did you say it was Kevin Bacon? I completely forgot about the Kevin Bacon, Sarah Kedgwick bit. But fast forward from all those years ago, and Julie Gold, who is here, dear, dear friend, was holding a party, and guess who came to perform with her, performed at the Duplex, because Julie here, as many of you will know of her song, if you don't know her personally, the Grammy-winning award winner of From a Distance. Stand up, Julie. I promised that you wouldn't sing. Had a party, and there was Kevin Bacon, and I got to meet Kevin Bacon, and I had no idea that you were observing him on the plane. I had no clue. So that brings me a long way back. So it was very sweet, Andrew, very nice, and thank you for saying that. I actually never heard that before. That is the first time I heard it. Any more offers, or shall we, as we said in my days of the 60s, shall we party on? Thank you.
Dr. Osborne's one among, I don't know how many I could count, but I'm lucky that I found him.